All right, so this is going to be our last lesson for circles, and I'll go ahead and tell you in advance that this video is probably going to be a little bit longer because I want to take time and explain these angle relationships because they can be a little bit confusing. I'm going to do my best to explain it as simple as I can. So what's going to happen is you're going to have all kinds of segments intersecting inside the circle, outside the circle. Some even intersect on the circle. And when that happens, you get these certain angle relationships. And there's like little identities and formulas that you have to know to be able to find pieces of it. So you'll either be asked to find an angle measure or an arc measure, which we measure everything in degrees. And all an arc is just a piece of the circle, okay? And I'll go a little bit more in depth on that when we get there. But so there's 3 cases where your angle could be formed at on this in the circle. It could be inside the circle, which is what we look at first. Then we're going to look at the ones that are on the circle. Then we'll look at ones that happen outside the circle, okay? And how I've laid this out is I've given you a picture to look for, and then like a little space to how to set up the formula, and then we'll work out some of the examples, okay? And I'm also going to color code some things, so hopefully that will distinguish it for you. So first start with inside the circle. So the relationship here, I'll go ahead and tell you the relationship so you can keep them up here. So the angle that is formed inside the circle is 1/2 times the arc 1 plus the arc 2. Okay, now it'll make more sense as we go along, but that's what you need to know inside. The angle is 1/2 times arc 1 plus arc 2. Okay, so in our picture here, this is what inside kind of looks like this. You won't necessarily have the little arrows outside, so you'll have a circle with like an X shape inside of it. Okay, and if you see that, then this is the one you're going to have to use. Okay, and so I've got angle 1 and angle 2 here, so we're going to follow this setup for angle 1. So let me switch to a pen. So angle 1 is right here. It is caught between those two. Those would be secants. So I'm going to just highlight what I'm caught between. Okay, and it's also caught here because angle 1 and right there, those are going to be vertical, so they'll be the same. So this X pattern right here, when you stretch them out, how much of the circle does it cut off? Is what I will think about. So if I follow from here, and I know angle 1 is caught between here, then where do these ends stop? And then where does it cut the circle? So for those two sides, it's going to cut it right here. And I'll draw this on it so you can see it. So for this part of angle 1, it's going to cut off that piece of the circle. And then for the back side, between these two, it's going to cut off this piece. Okay? So kind of like from the angle, you kind of go to the left and then to the right, and those pieces that are caught in your X are the pieces you're going to use. Those are the arcs you're going to use. So the measure of angle 1 is going to be 1/2 times arc 1. Now you can let either one of these little pieces of circles be arc 1. So I'm just going to let this one be. From A to D around the circle. So we call that the measure of AD, and I put that on top to say it's an arc. Oops, I forgot. And then plus the measure. So what other piece was cut off? BC. and then put the arc so that you know it's an arc. Okay, now I'm going to switch to purple to do angle 2. Angle 2 is right here. So it's still, there's still an X here, but it's a different X. So instead of going this way, it's actually going to go this way. So this piece, A to B, goes with angle 2, and then C to D goes with angle 2. So that's going to be 1/2 the measure of arc AB plus the measure of arc CD. Okay, so these are like more general statements based on our picture. But what I want you to understand here is for the inside angles, the angle is 1/2 times arc plus arc. You have to try and remember this as best you can. Okay? Now let's see how to use it. So sorry, I'm rambling. So we're going to use this rule. And what's going to happen is either the angle or one of these arcs is going to be unknown. It'll have a question mark there. And that's what we'll be asked to find. And so we'll use that rule. Let me recopy it because you can't see it now. So the angle is 1/2 times arc 1 plus arc 2. Okay, so either the angle or one of the arcs is going to be unknown, and we have to find it. So I always tell myself, I'm going to let it be X, and I'm going to figure out, is it going to be the angle or the arc? So I'm going to look at my picture here. I see my X right here, and this big piece is 200 degrees of the circle, and this little section is 50. That tells me I know my arc 1 and my arc 2. I don't know the angle right here in the middle. I don't know that, so that's going to be my X. So X is my angle. So now I know that this is where X goes. I'm going to fill in the arc 1 and arc 2. So arc 1 I could say is 200 and arc 1 is 200, arc 2 is 50. Or you could do 50 plus 200 because it does not matter. And then you just type all this in at once in your calculator. And you should get 125 degrees. Okay, so now I hope that this rule makes a little bit more sense about how to use it. All right. So again, what is X going to be? So look at my picture. This time I have the angle, I have one of the arcs, and now I have another arc that I'm trying to find an arc. So I'm going to let it be arc 1 that I'm trying to find because I just find it helpful that if you let it be arc 1, kids don't mess it up as bad if they make it arc 1. Now I realize looking at this now that it's going to be 50 because this is basically the same problem as this one. But I want to show you this method because you're going to have to know how to do this method when you're trying to find the arc. So we plug in the angle equal 1/2. And I'm going to let arc 1 be X. I'm going to do X plus the other arc of 200. So see the difference in the setup? I'll let arc 1 be the unknown now. I'm going to let it be X. And here's what we need to do. If your X is over here, I want you to follow this method. You want to get rid of this half first. So to do that, we're going to multiply this side times 2. Just get in the habit of doing that. It makes the half go away. So 125 times 2 is going to be 250. And then you kind of just drop the half from this side. So you multiply by 2 to the left side and then drop the half on this side, like I've done here. And now we'll just subtract. So x is 50 degrees. So there's the two variations of the problem of an inside problem. You're either finding the angle or you're going to find one of the arcs. And that's the process you need to follow. All right, so let's go to on. So now instead of being inside, it switches to being on. It's literally on the edge of the circle. So your rule here is just the angle is 1/2 times the arc. So our angle here is ABC. So this angle right here, it's related to this piece of the circle that it intercepts. That's the fancy word. In other words, it's related to the piece of the circle that you cut off. So think of it this way. This is my angle I'm talking about that I'm highlighting in blue. And then this piece of the circle that I'm highlighting with my jagged edge. This piece of the circle is related to the angle. It's actually half. So the angle here is going to be 1/2 times the arc that you've cut off. So the measure of arc AC. Okay? So the angle equals 1/2 times the arc. That's your rule. There's also a second picture that comes with being on the circle, and it looks something like this. Okay? But the angle is still on the circle. So angle 1 is right here, and it's going to be cut off. It's this piece right here that I'm highlighting in blue. So that's where angle 1 is at. And it cuts off this piece of the circle. Let me do my jagged edge. So all of that inside between the two sides of the angle, that's how much of the circle it cuts off. So that angle 1 is going to be 1/2 times the measure of that arc from A to B. All right, angle 2 is going to be the same thing. So it is cut off between that side that's double shaded and then this side, and it cuts off, well, the rest of the circle. So I'm going to do a kind of squiggle. So it cuts off all of this. Okay? So the rest of the circle is from A to C to B. So that's a major arc. The measure of A, C, B. Okay? So again, the rule is the angle is 1/2 times the arc. That's your rule that you have to follow for your on examples, your on problems. Okay, and again, the angle or the arc is going to be where x goes. You're going to figure that out based on the picture. So look here. The question mark is on the circle, so I'm actually looking for the arc here. So my x is going to be the arc. 85 is my angle. and then 1/2, and then because it's arc, you could just do x, so 1/2 times x. And then, like we did earlier, to get rid of half, we just double the left side. 85 times 2, 170, and then we're left with x. All right? So again, what's my unknown? This time it's the angle. So x is 1/2 times the angle measured. 1/2 of 110, 1/2 times 110 is 55 degrees. Oops. Okay, so now for these pictures. Same rule, angle equals 1/2 times the arc. So what's my unknown? It's my arc because it's on the circle. So x is my arc. So the angle 58 is 1/2 x, or 1/2 times x, you could think of. And then to get rid of the 1/2, we double the left side. 58 times 2 is 116 degrees, and I'm left with x. Okay? Now, this is a stranger case, so I wanted to include this because some of these pop up on your assignment. What are you trying to find this time? Well, your question mark is here at the angle, so you're trying to find the angle. But notice on every problem we've done, you've been given the piece, the arc, the part of the circle that is inside your angle. Well, you've got this piece, the other side of the circle. I need this one. I need this arc. That arc would be LM. I need that arc. Well, how am I going to find it? Well, there's a simple trick that you need to remember. Okay. Hopefully you remember this, that the degrees all the way around a circle, all the way around. There's 360 degrees all the way around a circle. We know that part of it is 208. We're trying to find the other part. So all we do is 360 minus 208. That's going to give us the portion we need. And that ends up being 152 degrees. This 152 is the number we're going to use for our arc. Okay? So x is 1/2 times 152. Which when you do that, you get 76 degrees for the angle. Okay? Be careful with those, okay? Make sure that you have the piece, the arc, the piece of the circle that you need between your angle. If you don't have it like we did here, you're going to have to do this 360 trick to get it. All right, those were your on examples, and now we're going to go to our outside. So outside, there's actually 3 separate pictures that you can have. You can have a picture where you cross the circle twice in 2 different places. So that's the first one. We'll look at the other 2 in a minute. So your rule here is, it's very similar to the inside. So it starts out the same. Angle equals 1/2, but now it's going to be the big arc minus the small arc. So instead of adding the arcs, we actually subtract them here. And it's big minus small. It has to be big minus small because small minus big makes no sense. It'll end us with a negative answer. We don't want negative. All right. So our angle here, angle A out here, what's the big arc? Well, see how you go all the way across. The big arc is going to be all the way across on the other side of the circle. It's going to be this piece right here. All right. Your small arc is the one closest right there. So keep that in mind. The big arc is farther away from the angle. The small arc is closer. So this will be 1/2. This blue here is the measure of CE minus the purple here, the measure of BD. That D is horrible. Let me rewrite that. Okay, sorry, I'm playing with my pencil. Okay, so the big arc here was CE, the small arc was BD. You have to write it in that order. Okay, so let's go look at the other ones. So this picture now is two tangents. Okay, they touch the circle once in two separate places. So the measure of angle A is going to look a little different here. The big arc is still farther away, so it's going to be all of this over here. Okay, the small arc, the closest one, is all this right here. So 1/2 times the big arc. So the big arc goes from B through D to C. Starts at B, goes to D, ends at C. So that's going to be BDC minus the small arc, BC. Okay? And then you have a combo where you have it touches once in one area and twice in another area. Same, different picture, same rule. So the big arc from angle A is all the way across from B to D. The small arc, the one closest to you, would be B to C. So big arc here is the measure of BD minus the small arc of BC. So again, the rule for your outside angles. One half big arc minus small arc. Okay? So let's make sure which one we're trying to find. So notice back here on the, I sometimes call these birds, so this is like a bird beak. So back here at the bird beak, we have the angle. We have the angle, the arc closest. Oh, so you can't even see what I'm talking about. Sorry. We have our angle of 45 back here. We have the arc that is closest to it. So 47 here is the small arc. We're trying to find the big arc. So X is going to equal big arc. Okay, and we'll just plug in everything else in our formula here. So 45 is my angle. 1/2 big minus small. Okay? So to get rid of the half, multiply the left side by 2, and then drop the half on the right side. So 45 times 2 is 90. Drop the half, I'm left with x plus 47. Now I'm going to add 47. So 90 plus 47 is 137 degrees. Okay? Keep going, same thing. So notice now, x is back here on the angle position, and I have the small and the big arc. So x here is my angle. So x equals 1/2 the big arc, 146, minus the small arc of 66. And because it's written this way, you can just type all that into the calculator at once. And when you do that, you end up getting 40 degrees. Okay? So right here's my x. It's back here on the angle spot. Make sure you have the big and the small arc here. We have the one closest, 120 is the small. I need my big, but it's not labeled for me. So remember earlier we had to do 360 minus the arc we were given. We're going to have to do that here again because I've got to know how big the big arc actually is. So 360 minus 120 is 240. So 240 is going to be my big arc that I'm going to use. So 1/2 times 240 minus 120. Type all that in at once, and you get 60 degrees. And then lastly, I have my angle, my small. I'm trying to find my big. So my angle is 55. X is my big arc, 70 was my small. Get rid of the half. 55 times 2, 110. Drop the half. Then 110 plus 70 is 180 degrees. All right, there you go. So I know that was a little bit longer, but I wanted to try and explain this as best as I could. So make sure you watch this all the way through. Complete your homework assignment. And as always, if you have questions, please let me know.